Being an IANA member, we get to contribute to sharing best practices, to sharing information, developing ways of improving our processes and our communication. The collaborative nature of the industry, working with everybody, provides real benefit.
Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and also the founder of the Blended Pledge. Now, I'm super excited to be here with you today. Audrey Ross is joining me as my special guest, but of course, we could not put on this show without our sponsors. You just heard from IANA. And now, what are your business's supply chain challenges? Too much inventory on hand, too many disruptions and stockouts? Are there just too many steps and touch points involved? Well, Fastenal can tailor a solution, from automated bins that monitor your inventory 24/7 to vending devices that help you track and control the products that keep your businesses running. Go to fastenal.com/LTSC to see how. Fastenal, where industry meets innovation. Well, we've got a pretty big show for you today because we are talking about some really hot topics. One of them I have a big story around, so stay tuned for that. But before we bring up Audrey, we do need to talk about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain right now. So we have a brand new episode that came out yesterday, episode 332, with Courtney from Renewal Logistics. Now, if you thought that you have seen all the innovation in logistics and supply chain, think again. You need to listen to this episode because Courtney and her team have taken their business and have created so much innovation, have made so much impact for their customers in a variety of ways that you wouldn't even think possible. And she is full of stories of how they've turned things around for their customers. So go and check that out wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, wherever you listen to us. Maybe you want to go over to the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube and check that out as well. What else have we got going on? Oh, so later today, we've got the true crime series of supply chain. That's right. If you have not checked out the intelligence perspective yet, it's coming out at 1 p.m. Eastern. Danny goes live, very, very short. He is interviewing people and talking about cargo theft. That's right. We have true crime in supply chain, and Danny is the one to bring it to us. We're going live. I'm going live on Thursday with the team over at TTX and sponsored by IANA. Now, this one you definitely want to go and check out. For all of our live shows, if you click the attend button and you can't attend live, that's fine. I will send you the link personally to the recording so that you can still check it out. So make sure you click that attend button. But we're going to be talking all about the economy. We're going to be talking about intermodal market trends, what it means for your logistics and supply chains. There is so much information. And honestly, this is a very rare opportunity to ask your questions of the team at TTX. They do all sorts of research. They bring so much information to the industry. So you definitely want to come and check that one out. And then, of course, Friday, we've got DC back with action items at 10 a.m. Eastern. And she's going to be talking about moving your product, 3PL, broker, or direct. That's a really hot topic right now, too. And, we're going to show that one in a minute. This one is, we are celebrating 5 years of Let's Talk Supply Chain as of this Saturday. That's right. April 6th. Is it Saturday or Sunday? No, it's Sunday. April 16th. We are celebrating 5 years. And to do that, we are giving away some custom Air Force Ones. That's right. Nike Air Force Ones. These are in the Let's Talk Supply Chain brand colors. They have LTSC on the back of those shoes. And in order to win, you have to follow the Let's Talk Supply Chain page on the social platform that you're on. Follow myself as well, and then share a video. We want to hear from you about something that you've learned, something that you found valuable from Let's Talk Supply Chain over the last 5 years. Mention our 5-year anniversary and tag both places. Not too hard, just, we are giving away some custom Air Force Ones. So we definitely want to hear from you to be able to win those. So go and check that out. Plus, I've got a new monthly hustle out. This just came out last night. It's my monthly LinkedIn newsletter. So you think you can podcast part 2. Part 1 was super popular. So we came out with part 2 with some tidbits and some information for you. So definitely go and check that out. And last but not least, we also want to make sure that you're heading over to the Secret Society of Supply Chain. It's our new brand, peer learning groups. Take the quiz and find out what group is right for you, and just join the wait list for now, and you'll be able to get some information when we launch. So now, without further ado, I told you there was a lot to go over. Let's bring up Audrey. Hello, Audrey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I feel like we almost got dressed in the same color this morning.
Yeah, I think so. It was sort of a teal, like a green.
Teal green. And
Hey.
I love the background. So now that everybody can see your background, tell us who you are and what you do for those who do not know.
My name is Audrey Ross. I'm here in Toronto, right now in Mississauga. I'm an import and export compliance manager at Orchard Custom Beauty, which is a award-winning business-to-business private labeling company that specializes in beauty tools, cosmetics, and bath accessories. Someone else is from Toronto.
Yeah, somebody else from Toronto, and then Larry's from Ontario too.
Yeah.
We got lots of Canadians in the building today. So anyways, what do we need to talk about? I think I already sort of gave everybody a hint of what we needed to talk about, but you posted this the other day.
Yeah.
I love this. Now I know there's a few people that have come out with their own, but you said this Barbie is a trade geek, and I love this photo of you, and it totally goes. What made you want to do this?
It's just a fun meme that was going around. I think I saw it first on Instagram. But yeah, it looked kind of fun, and it really captures, I think everyone's very excited. I don't know, maybe not everyone, very excited about this upcoming Barbie movie. And so I thought it was such a great way for, I assume, Mattel's the brand name, and maybe it's the movie producers or people who put it together. But it was like, I saw it everywhere on Instagram. All of my friends were doing, all these people that I follow were doing it. And really taking, it gives you choose the wording that you have, right? There were some suggested phrases that you could use.
Really?
And there were ones,
Okay.
Yeah, and there was like the ones that they were using for the movie, right? Because there's several characters. So they were presenting this Barbie is, but they were several characters, or this Ken is. But you could choose sort of what it said. And so I was like, I'll do mine as a trade geek, because I am, and people know me as that. So I was like, I thought it'd be fun. Yeah. And maybe it's a bit punchy for LinkedIn, but I thought it was a good conversation starter. So
it totally was. You got lots of reactions and comments on that one. Yeah. And I love that. All right, now let's go on to something else that has to do with the workplace, but has to do with visibility.
Yeah.
So last week we asked everybody, whether you have them or not, are you willing to hire someone with visible tattoos? Now, I think we asked this one a while ago, like probably a year, 18 months ago. I can't remember what came out of it, but this one says 85% of you said, of course, 13% of you said not sure, which I would hope people would elaborate on. And 2% said other, drop it in the comments. What did you think about this conversation when you saw it? I mean, we had 641 votes. We had 15 comments, which I'll go through in just a minute. But I mean, would you hire somebody? I don't see why not. I mean, I've got people in my life who have like full sleeves, and you can't really cover it.
Yeah, I think it's becoming less and less of a thing. I feel like it was the kind of thing that if you were getting into the workplace in like the 90s, it was like, oh, you can't, there was a lot more emphasis on conformity and really having a very specific uniform. And at the time and in previous years, the uniform was very much related and around what, certain, sort of a male dominated industries. Everybody's wearing suits. Everybody's wearing a tie. It was a much more formal industry. I think even pre-pandemic, we were sort of loosening, not loosening, but like just shifting some of what was accepted to fit a more inclusive workplace, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's not that, you know, women aren't necessarily going to show up in a suit and tie. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But, you know, everyone's going to have, there's a lot of racism in our hairstyles in the workplace, and how, you know, we're judged on beauty standards in certain workplaces that don't fit or conform to beauty standards in other places. So this whole, it's so subjective that it's like we really have to move away from some of these subjective judgments. And I think tattoos really fall into that. And I think I mean, the comments are brilliant. You have such a spectrum. And the only thing that I would add is that it's you know, it's your body, your choice. It's just, again, there were a couple comments about, you know, sort of some kind of tattoos can be, you know, some expressions can be racist or make other people extremely uncomfortable. So I think best judgment on that.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to share some of these comments.
They're great.
Mike says likely mandatory for supply chain. You have to know who can handle the pain. I thought that was funny. And then Audrey says tattoos tell a story. And so you actually get to understand the person a little bit more, you know, if that's how they choose to express it through their tattoos. And we talk about, you know, understanding the people that you work with or the team members on your team. And what a better way to do that through conversation about the body art rather than making assumptions right away. Selena or Sil says, for me, the reality is that if you don't want me and my tattoos in the room, I probably don't want to be in that room either. Yeah. So I loved that. And thanks to everybody who weighed in on the question of the week. You know, we're going to have another poll for you tomorrow morning. So Audrey, before we get into some of our articles for today, and let me tell you, there's some good stories here. Talk to us about your market update. What is happening in the market? What are you seeing? What should people be aware of right now?
Well, some of us had holidays over this weekend. For a lot of people, it's sort of the Easter holiday, and you had scheduled holidays. So Canadians were off on Fridays. Apparently, the Germans were off on Friday. I didn't realize, so that threw me off a little bit in my activities. But so people were off Friday and Monday. Some people were just off Monday. So yesterday was a little bit quiet for me. But the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach took sort of an unexpected break and was not working sort of all weekend. So there was sort of a work stoppage ahead of the labor negotiations that have been ongoing, honestly, for a very long time. I think the official contract negotiations started last May, still remains unresolved. And so, you know, there was a little bit of movement, I guess, or lack of movement over the weekend when they took a break.
Did they let you know?
No, nobody tells you these things. No, I mean, maybe the union stated it, maybe they advised it, but like, I don't know, they wouldn't have updated like the carriers or the forwarders, which wouldn't have gotten to me by the time it was happening. So I think I saw it on LinkedIn. So.
Wow. Well, that's not good.
Yeah. Made for an interesting weekend. So nothing was offloaded. No, you know, no cranes working, no offloading.
Talk about like not being able to have visibility and not being able to make, you know, choices or have choices to be able to reroute cargo or anything like that if you foresee that coming up.
Yeah, and that's it. But that's the thing sometimes in this industry with ocean shipping, it can be really hard to be agile because you're sort of, once you're locked in on your booking and the routing, like you're pretty much stuck. So it is helpful when you know in advance, like, oh yeah, you know, if I'd known in February that would have been happening. But that's not quite how these things work. You just sort of have to roll with it. And
you might have been able to
have some understanding.
You might have been able to do something about it.
Yeah, like 6 weeks ago. But so yeah, otherwise everyone else, we've got some labor. There's some labor issues as well across Europe. Le Havre had been closed. I'm not sure if it's reopened yet, which had suggested that, you know, maybe Antwerp might do a work action, which might, you know, trickle to all of the ports in Europe. But we're sort of playing that by ear. And just seeing what'll happen. But otherwise, things are quieter. The volumes aren't as high seemingly because it's fairly easy to get the space that we're looking for. The prices are fairly reasonable again. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about another company who has done well with their supply chain. So, you all might know a little company called Lego, and they were featured in The Hustle. You guys know that I like The Hustle, and I like it when they feature articles that talk about supply chain. Now, for this one, they're talking about how, in comparison to some of their competitors, like Mattel, who we talked about earlier with the Barbie, they have actually done some recent layoffs, but Lego is actually up year over year, and they are making $9.27 billion a year at the moment. One of the reasons for that is because of the new toys that they're bringing on market. 48% of their of the products that were on the market in 2022 were brand new products. So that's almost half of what they're putting on shelves is brand new product, which is, I mean, we kind of saw that a little bit during the pandemic, but now after the pandemic, it's a little bit weird to be able to see that and see such success. But one of the things that they are attributing their success to is how they weathered their supply chains through the pandemic and how they based it on vertical integration. Now, there's a few things that they talk about with that, and that's because they opened up a factory in Vietnam. They also are opening up a factory in Virginia. So it sounds like they took a look at their supply chain and they tried to figure out where it would make the most sense for them to have factories and position some of their manufacturing to be able to help weather the supply chain in the future for any potential disruption. So, Audrey, what did you think about this?
I thought, Lego's been on a real kick, working through their sustainability
That's true.
goals,
Yeah.
and so I think all of this ties in together, into their strategic planning.
Absolutely. And I want to say hi to Jory on my personal LinkedIn. I meant to do that a little bit earlier. But a couple of things to note in this particular article is that they have opened 155 stores. They actually have 904 stores globally. Now, when we look at omnichannel or we look at what retailers are doing from a supply chain perspective, opening stores, closing stores, using
Yes.
stores as potential inventory or pick and pack locations, right? Which is what we're seeing a bit of a mix of. The Lego is doing, they're bringing new toys to market, they're opening new stores, and it's just amazing to see how the different brands and the different retailers actually benefit from different strategies and different supply chain strategies. What works for one organization is not necessarily going to work for another. And we've been talking about that through the pandemic, right? Is the fact that retailers and organizations need to start looking at their supply chains as unique, right?
Yes.
And what is going to work for them, not what everybody else is doing. So what do you think about that?
No, that's true. I mean, we've spoken about this a couple of times. I think people know that my opinion on it is you have to design the supply chain for what you're doing, with what your and desired customer outcomes are, and that's not going to be the same. Like, I can't run my supply chain the same way that an automotive company runs their supply chain. The products are different, the timing and the variables are just too different. It'd be nice to just copy and paste and insert, and you really just can't do that. And so it does require some trial and error and some real intention and mindfulness when you're setting things up to really think through, how can I place this, and then really think through some of the diverting consequences. And the other thing is, I mean, Lego's a direct to consumer brand, so they have all that access to feedback. If you're business to business, it can be a bit more of a challenge because you're trying to facilitate a business to also then sell to a further customer. So that's a whole different environment. Whereas Lego literally has direct feedback. So if the stores aren't working, they can figure that out pretty quickly. If the stores aren't working in certain areas, they can figure that out really quickly. Another piece this article highlights is the supplementary, right? The digital supplement of having, it sounds like they have a new game space. And my friend works at a company who had done that, where they have the physical toy and product, but then they also have their own game space, and that really kind of it just offers you another extension of that brand or of those toys.
It's true, like an omni-channel of supply chain, and then looking at a variety of different ways that you can touch the customer. Emma says heavily dependent on where their end customer is based. That's absolutely true. But one of the things that I also thought about from this article and talking about how organizations' supply chains are so different, I want to do a call out to event organizers, because we need diverse voices, first of all, which we all know that you and I are a part of Blended Pledge. But we also need to hear from diverse organizations about their supply chains, what's working for them, what's not working.
Oh, I think Sarah dropped. I think she was talking about how it needs to be more clear, what is who's being able to participate and have that opportunity to communicate and to offer the feedback, and who's getting heard from. Oh, there you are.
I totally just got kicked out of my own live stream.
Your little room here.
Awesome. Okay, so we're back. One of the things that I was saying is that we need to hear from diverse organizations about what's working and what's not working, because then we can all take bits and pieces and figure out what works for our supply chain, right? Anyways, so now that I'm back and I have to get everything back on track. All right, let's get to our second article. So I don't know if any of you have heard about this, but my husband and I were driving past Toronto Pearson Airport, and I saw this airplane, and I was like, is that really? And I'm pointing at this thing, and my husband's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that is an Antonov airplane. What is it doing at Toronto Pearson Airport? Oh, and then I started Googling it, because I was like, what is it doing here? Why is it here? And I found out that this plane actually, I believe, flew in and dropped off rapid tests when we needed them. Okay. But it actually landed right before we closed the airspace to Russian airplanes. And so it wasn't allowed to take off. And so now it's been parked at Toronto Pearson Airport, not being able to go anywhere, not being able to move cargo when we really need to move cargo. And it's racking up $300,000 in parking fees.
Yeah, depending on how long it's been here, we should maybe charge a little more for our parking fees. But I know you hear that Pearson's one of the most expensive airports in the world. So yeah. I think it's this is what happens when we have these unexpected sort of geopolitical events, the consequences and the extension of these bans and sort of embargoes, result in these sort of odd kind of situations. I mean, if there are other Russian assets that are sort of stuck yeah.
We are having all sorts of technical difficulties this morning.
Oh, did I glitch?
Yeah, you totally glitched. Can you just re-say that again?
Yeah, I think it's a situation where you could have several Russian assets that might be stuck in other locations. I don't think it's an isolated incident. And these are the sort of random, unexpected consequences when we issue these kinds of bans, which is why it'd be nice if we all tried to get along a little bit better and, not have these dramatic consequences.
Absolutely. And so I just wanted to bring that one up to the community, because I didn't even know that it was sitting there. It's not even something that anybody has really covered.
No.
But the fact that an airplane of that size that's sitting there, that could be used to, I don't know, move
cargo, maybe be a little less than what we're paying right now.
Move cargo, but maybe, we want to be using it to move humanitarian goods and different things like that if needed. But anyways.
And the problem too, when they sit, like, it's really not great, especially in our climate. It's not great for them to sit here. Like during the pandemic, they took most of the planes that were at Pearson, they parked them in Arizona because the climate apparently is so much better. So there's a lot of stuff around like, it's sitting there racking up parking fines, but also it may not be flyable. It may not be usable.
That is a very good point.
Due to the sort of, I'm not an engineer expert on airplanes, but I've read.
We're trying. We're trying.
Doing my best. I'm learning.
Last article. So again, from the Hustle, this one really piqued my interest because I'm on a couple of boards. I know Audrey's on a couple of boards. This particular article talks about, and it actually has some really cool stats in here, but it talks about how we are really far away from having diverse boards, especially for tech companies. But actually, this article talks about that it's across different industries. Now, there's only 13% women. There's only 3% women of color on tech boards. What they're saying is that women make up over 50% of the workforce and men make up 91% of the board seats. And so I really feel like with those numbers, we need to obviously bring it a little bit more closely matched to what the workforce actually looks like. They also said 32% of boards do not have any women at all, and 76% of boards have no women of color. And what they're also talking about is if you have even one woman on your board, those companies are raising 16% more money.
Yeah.
And so this to me, I don't know if it was necessarily shocking, but it was definitely an article that I wanted to bring to the community to really give an idea as to where we are right now. And for VCs to really take a look and, owners, founders of businesses to really take a look and be like, how can we have more talent available, more diverse talent available for boards so that we can be more representative of what that workforce looks like. And what do we need to do? Maybe we need to train. Maybe we need to upskill. Maybe we need to take a look at somebody and say, hey, do you want to be on a board in a few years? What is it from me that I need to be able to help you to do that?
Yeah, we talked about that. I was recently at the launch of the the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub does research every year on entrepreneur landscape in Canada. And there was a position that, we need to get the women. We need to get these women entrepreneurs to upskill themselves and do better.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
Okay, like we all want to improve ourselves and merit. But also we need the people who are giving out the money or who are in these board positions to understand their own inherent bias.
Yeah.
Right. So there's not a detachment when it comes to these boards. And the article did highlight how most boards are built by personal connections. If your personal connections are all people who think like you and do the same things that you do, and then you're never going to have a diverse board. It's never going to have people who think differently. There's a 16% cost to that because we have this data that presents diverse boards do better. So in a landscape where there's all of these labor shortages and these labor issues, and you're trying to find the best candidate, why aren't you actually looking for the best candidate? And so these boards need to relook at how they're presenting themselves and how they're, sourcing and finding candidates, and then how they're supporting them to be able to be good board members.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And so I'm part of two boards. One of the board does have women on it. The other one is Blended Pledge, and we are made up of all
mostly
women.
And because it's volunteer.
Because it's volunteer. Yeah. But I also think that, one of the remarks is going to be, well, we can't find a candidate.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one, Sarah.
Is good for our board, right? And it's kind of like, okay, well, where are you looking and how far in advance are you planning? Because if we planned this properly, we would be able to support and empower and upskill and train these diverse voices to be able to be part of those boards. I don't think that there's enough effort being put into talking to somebody about what it means to be part of a board, whether that's part of their career trajectory. Is that something that they want to do? If it is, what do we need to do to get them there? Maybe it's our board, maybe it's somebody else's board, but how do we empower those diverse voices to be able to get them to where they can be a viable candidate for boards? And I think that's going to take everybody, but I think it's going to take founders, and I think it's going to take VCs to really step in and make sure that we are highlighting diverse voices who want to be part of boards and giving them the opportunity. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. And also it's how are you accessing your users?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a big gap if you only have 5 one type of person in the room, but
Mm.
your company or your brand or your product is meant for multiple users. Are you getting the feedback you need to make the best product
That's true.
or offer the best service if you're only getting feedback from one type of customer?
So true. All right. Well, we are going to end the show letting you know where we're going to be. So Home Delivery World is happening June 14th to 15th. We are going to be there in person. I'm going to be recording episodes on site. So if your organization wants to be on an episode, reach out to me because we are recording on site. And plus, I'm going to be on stage twice, I think, while we're there as well. Again, on Thursday, we've got intermodal market trends coming at you live at 2 p.m. Eastern. Remember to click the attend button for any of these because I'm going to send you the recording afterwards. We've got action items coming up with DC. And of course, this afternoon, true crime in supply chain with Danny of Overhaul. Audrey, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks everybody in the audience for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next week.